Cheezy Sales Cinema live. And tonight's topic is sunshine destinations. Yeah. So my name is Jason Reid, and I am here as always with my co-host Chris Mei. How are you doing tonight, Chris?
You know, it's been a great summer. It's been an outstanding summer. I know that, I mean, if anything at all has gone right over the past 15 months, it has, for the most part, been the seasons have played out perfectly. We had the best fall going into the best winter, going into the best spring, and so far it's been the best summer. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way that I do, but, I haven't missing summer destinations. However, after tonight, I know I will. That's going to suck.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things related to fun in the sun. We're going to be looking at a couple of typical sunshine destinations in Florida and California. We've also got to look at plane travel to Hawaii. And I know you're really excited for this, Chris. We're actually going to look at an old promo from, I think, probably the late 80s, early 90s for cruise line.
I hold cruise ships and the cruise industry close to my heart from a lifetime ago in a galaxy far, far away. But yeah, I'm excited about that one.
And of course, we want your comments. So Chris, why don't you give people just a quick rundown of what they can expect tonight?
So what we're going to do is Jason and I are going to set these scenes, and we're going to engage in a discussion that we want you to be a part of. So when you send in, regardless of where you're listening, whether it be on Facebook or on YouTube or however you're watching us, maybe off of our site, send in your comments based on the conversations, and we'll bring you into the conversation. Then we will riff on a video that will really drive home the topic that we're focused on tonight, and during that you can still comment, and Jason, because he's a master producer, will quickly get those up, and you'll see your comments posted on the bottom of the screen, and then we'll comment on them afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's a family affair.
And if you're signed into YouTube or Facebook with your photo, you'll see your photo as well.
Yes, yeah. That's true.
So we have a couple of general questions to set you off here, because we do want to hear from you. Number one, we'd like to know what your favorite beach memory is. You know, did you spend time at the beach when you were a kid, or was it, as a teenager with your friends, or maybe even as an adult with your own kids? What is your favorite beach memory?
For me, I can't nail it down to one. It's impossible, because I remember being in Barbados. I was sent by a radio station to cover a jazz fest, and the Barbados Tourism Authority said, well, we're not going to let you leave your young family behind. So they flew my wife and my son out, and my son experiencing the ocean for the first time was hilarious because he was frightened by it. But again, 4 years working on cruise ships, I have a lot of amazing memories of beaches. So I really can't nail that down. I'm a beach kid. I am a beach kid. Now, I'm also a beach snob, in that I look at the ocean side as a beach, and I look at a lakeside as a lakeside. I don't necessarily call that a beach. Yeah. I know there's going to be a lot of people that live along the Great Lakes going, boo! But that's just a me thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Probably my best memory, I guess it's not a beach memory, but when I was 20 years old, I won a screenwriting competition and was flown down to Hollywood to do a writer's workshop. And I was put up at the Roosevelt Hotel, which had just been renovated to its original Art Deco splendor. And I was led to my room, which is a cabana room right next to the pool. And when they brought me into the room, it was all dark. The drapes were closed and everything else. And I remember the hotel attendant went over and opened up the curtains, and suddenly there was sunlight, there was palm trees, there were blondes with big breasts and bikinis, and guys with huge shoulders and perfect teeth and perfect hair, and it looked like a beer commercial. It was like, man, I am not.
Was it a beer commercial?
No, it was. I was actually poolside in Hollywood. That was how crazy iconic it actually was there at the Roosevelt. So yeah, that's probably my biggest sort of more poolside than beachside memory. But the other question we want to ask you guys is your favorite sunshine destination. Obviously in Southern Ontario, where Chris and I are, Florida is a big one. But I think one of the one of my favorites, Chris, was Malta. I went to Malta a few years ago, and that's where a lot of British people go for their sunshine. And it's gorgeous. A little island right on the Mediterranean there. You're close to water all the time. It's not overly humid in the wintertime, and it's really nice.
My favorite has been, probably always will be. I fell in love with Barbados when I first met Barbados, when I first landed for the first time, and I can't get enough of Barbados. I am Bayesian at heart. For as as pale and Canadian as I am, I love my Barbados.
They had you at Bring Your Family.
They had me at Bring My Family. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let us know your favorite sunshine destination, your favorite beach memory. If you have one, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, please.
So, as we said, in, where we are on the East Coast, one of the popular sunshine destinations is Florida. And especially for those of us who are a certain age, who grew up during the 80s and early 90s, where spring break movies were like the thing, and every teen or young adult.
Spring break was the thing.
Yeah, was really big on spring break. Probably the biggest spring break destination was the one we're about to see next, and that is Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. A military base, but you said we were doing Florida.
This is Fort Lauderdale, so you get both the military base and the beach.
Didn't know there was a military base there. I thought it was just all beaching and fun.
Air Force Base.
Okay.
All the planes that get lost in the Bermuda Triangle all launch from Fort Lauderdale.
That's right. Oh!
Hopefully we find a seal that pops out and balances the sides. Apparently not, but we get a jazz score.
Is that part of the Air Force that just flew by?
That's it, yeah. Pilot training, day 1. Okay, you're going to fly the Fort Lauderdale sign.
Once upon a beach...
Why are we doing that? To remind people where they are.
Which isn't strange, because the beach always seems to bring out the best in little girls.
Right.
Big girls, too.
Okay.
You know what's strange? Is him saying that. Him just saying those words was strange.
But Dad's not worried. It'll wash back to shore.
Just like that old lady who was eaten by the shark. It'll wash up.
How about some joy for the toy?
I mean, she didn't come up in one piece. She was bits and pieces, but she washed back.
Well, this is a beach, and there are lots of things to do at a beach.
Yeah, sit and
Especially
walk
a beach
and
like Fort
swim.
Lauderdale Beach.
Basically, you've named all 3 things, and that is one dead beach. Where is everybody?
I don't know. Well, it is 1950, so who knows? They haven't made it down to Florida yet.
We didn't have a population in 1950. People hadn't figured out Florida yet. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Florida happiness just for you. Now, to some people, happiness is
It's Mr.
being rocked
Kittner.
to sleep by the waves, peaceful, undisturbed.
Who's drunker, the guy on the raft reaching over the middle of the ocean for a ball, or the narrator? This narrator's awful.
Some people claim that just
Some people
strolling along
claim
the
that
beach
just
is the
strolling
most
along the
pleasant
beach.
because of all the interesting sights.
You sound like Emo Phillips.
Why go to a museum when you have the beach to see things?
Oh, yeah.
Or should I say?
Oh, that's safe for children.
Other people
Men popping out of
prefer the
sand traps.
privacy of sand and sombrero.
I never got the burying yourself in sand
Yes,
thing.
the features of this beach are plentiful.
I mean, it's fun to cool yourself off with, but burying yourself completely is a bit much.
Yeah, God knows what's in there.
Skin diving, a popular sport, but for the beginner,
Skin
Skin
diving.
diving, that's a word I haven't heard in a while.
For exploring the crystal.
I don't think they
clear
call
waters.
it that anymore, for good reason.
Yes.
Well, if you must bump into something, beach balls.
ball's
are
better than a boat
infinitely
screw to
better
bump
than
into.
the fabled sea monsters.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's better than just bumping into
Elusive, it
a
seems.
cruise ship as well,
He may
because
be-
Fort Lauderdale beaches are loaded with them now.
About design, all right.
The announcer sounds drunk or something. You know
He
something
does.
about design, all right.
In fact, all visitors
The beach
to
is
Fort
great
Lauderdale
for little
are
girls
greeted
and big
treated
girls,
as
too.
royalty. And there are beachside castles to suit every king and queen.
And they're all on a 45-degree angle, so if you have any furniture with wheels, it rolls to the edge.
You make it sound like he's talking like Emo Phillips. They'll just roll to the earth.
What a nice pool.
Formal courtyards of
I'm
old
sure it's in a nice
have been
backyard
replaced by
somewhere,
patio
surrounded by
pools
greenery and
modern
lush.
day castles.
Streets?
Tropical rainforest type. No, I guess not.
It's not.
That sucks. No, our hotel, kids, is at the corner of Busy and Busier.
You get a great view of the traffic and the exhaust.
Look how many
Take
lanes
for the
of
swim,
traffic
not
are
the
out
question
front.
With Princess Water Nymph.
And why is that girl wearing a watermelon on her back?
This whole video has gone completely off the rails. That poor kid can't even move.
But float.
And I don't know whether that's a bathing cap or some sort of a protective helmet.
It looked like a crash helmet, didn't it? It did.
Yeah.
No
Watch out for
diving
the
with
kids.
the kids.
Oh.
Forget it. Why do we try, Jason? Why do we try?
No thought to safety back then.
We try to help the kids. Hey, wait, hold on. No, the slide's just for the kids. Wait. Oh, crying out
Made
loud.
quite a hit with the ball.
Boom!
Wow.
Right in the head or the wall.
That's right. This is like a drill. It's a safety drill. And he put 2 boots to the head.
Meanwhile, back at the beach.
Oh, good. We're back at the beach.
Yeah, the kid who throws away all their toys. Your father said, play by yourself some more.
Now the Air Force has a beach ball.
How much you want to bet that pilot was just about to tear it and he saw the little girl and
Yep, this makes me want to go there.
Beach ball.
Oh, yeah, because there's so many people.
But
It
then
just
had
looks
to
like it's
happen.
lively all to hell.
Everyone has a ball in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, my gosh.
Lecherous laugh.
Lecherous laugh, cornball remarks. And I got to tell you, every time I've been to Lauderdale, I haven't been able to even find the sandwich with so many people. I don't know how Chris this was.
This is back when Florida was in black and white, so I don't think there was many
The
people.
whole state was in black and white.
Yes. You know, tourism really picked up when they moved to color. That's for sure.
That sure did. It absolutely, well, it had to. It had to. They had to do something. Quick, let's get the Chamber of Commerce together. We need to afford color.
Indeed. But you know what? There were benefits back then to it being a little bit more chill. When I say back then, one of my most interesting Florida memories is going back to 1985, which was obviously considerably after that video. But I
Right.
remember going down to visit my grandparents who were already down there. And it was, I think, early March. And we went around to the baseball spring training facilities.
That's the best.
And it was before they actually started playing the spring training games. It was fairly early. And back then, you know, you didn't have people, the crazy autograph hounds getting autographs and selling them on eBay and stuff like that. It was much more chill. So there was actually very little security. You could actually go on to the training grounds and get pretty close to the players, as long as you didn't bother them or, you know, like I said,
my
as long as
gosh.
you're cool, it
Wow.
was pretty close. So I remember the one place we went that day was Sarasota, which is where the White Sox were. And I'm not quite sure why he was doing this, but pitching batting practice for the White Sox, and I was a keen baseball historian, even when I was a kid back then, I'm looking up the mounts like, that's Don Drysdale. That's like the Hall of Fame
What?
Dodger pitcher from the 60s, one of the best pitchers like ever in
Yeah.
the history of the game.
He's one of the best broadcasters.
Yeah, well, he was
after that,
he was
yeah.
a broadcaster then. I guess he was trying to stay in shape, so he was pitching batting practice. He had on those. I don't know if you remember those rubber suits they used to wear for them to sweat, so they could take some
of
pounds
course.
off. So he was wearing one of those, and he was drenched coming off the field. And part of me didn't want to go up and ask him for his autographs. He looked just totally exhausted, but I did. He was like the nicest guy, and
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so that was the first part of my day. Second part of my day, we end up in St. Petersburg, which is where the Mets were at that point. And again,
Okay.
you could actually get really close on the field. Occasionally, they had little stakes in the ground with a little rope to sort of show where you shouldn't go. But there was this series of mounds and backstops where the pitchers were practicing with the catchers. And I realized that I could actually walk up right to the backstop. So I'm literally just like a couple feet from home plate, right over the batter's shoulder, like where the umpire would be. And guess who I was in front of? I was in front of Dwight Gooden.
Oh, come on.
After his like stellar rookie season, I thought, I want to see how
What?
Dwight Gooden pitches. And I don't know whether it was because I was there or whatever, but he unleashes this wicked curveball that I swear, Chris, my jaw must have been to my knees. It was like watching a magic trick, but knowing it was absolutely real. It took my breath away. And it's funny because no matter how good your seats are in the stands or how great the television broadcast is, it just does not give you that appreciation of a great major league curveball than just like
So
standing.
where were you standing to see this? So
Yeah.
this is I gotta put the show on pause for
okay.
a second. I gotta get my head around
Yeah.
this. You are at a practice, so you're not on the ball
No.
diamond. You're
No.
off to the side where they were doing pitchers and catchers.
And
So where were you standing to get that point of view?
yeah, so if you've been to a lot of smaller parks, in the bullpen area, they basically just have a backstop. So there's basically like just a little fence, so the ball won't get away, and you have the catcher literally with his back to that fence, and the plate
Okay,
is
so you're
right
on the
there.
other side of the fence.
Yeah, so I'm where the umpire would be. The only difference is
Okay.
I've got the fence between myself and the catcher.
Okay.
But I'm
Okay, now I
literally
get
like
it.
a
Now I
foot or
get it.
two from the plate. So incredible.
So that's how you can see the ball come in and curve.
And curve. Oh yeah, it's a totally different perspective than if you're in the stands or even have a television view.
That's fantastic. So you got to see Don Drysdale at the start of your day,
Yep.
and Doc Gooden to close your day.
I saw Sir Charles. That's what they called his curveball. It's normally called Charlie, but they called his Sir Charles because it was so good.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you met Charles Barkley
No.
for drinks afterwards. Where the hell were you?
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
So let us welcome some of the folks here. We're starting to get our comments in. So let's see who we've got here.
Hello, Robert.
Robert.
We
regular.
had one while the video was playing too.
Yes, Ken was saying they were social distancing on the beach.
Yep, they sure were. There's nobody there.
And
It looked like there was.
we've also
Hello,
got
Susan.
All right. So hello, everybody. And keep them coming. Again, any beach memories, favorite sunshine destinations, or any Florida
gosh, yeah.
stories. And I'm sure all of you guys have some Florida stories.
Do you have any spring training stories now? None of which are going to top Jason's, but
Who knows?
Why not?
Yeah.
Just throw it in there.
Why not? So
That was amazing.
yeah. So do you have any particular memories of Florida in particular, Chris? Did you go down there very much?
Florida. Went down there when I was a kid. Took in Blue Jays, Pirates, Blue Jays, Phillies, that sort of thing. I got the autographs of Ernie Witt, and so I was there. Mid to late '80s as well.
Oh, cool.
I didn't get the same field access you got somehow, but I also had parents that were like helicopter parents. They were over top of me the whole time. More recently, though, for my full-time job, I was sent a couple times down to Florida to spend a week and do the promotional thing and file stories back home, and I loved it. The last time I was there was what year would that have been? 2018.
Mm-hmm.
2018 was the last time I was there, and we were there just after Idiot Face had won the American election, and his equally as demonic vice president, Idiot Head, was staying at a resort up the road in the Disney Village that we were at. We didn't know that, and for God's sake, there was so much security everywhere that we couldn't even. Oh, it was 2016 then. It would have been 2016.
Yeah, that was the election day.
2016. So that was the first time I went. And the second time I went was 2018. So it was midterms. That's right. 2016 was when Vice Idiot Face was staying at a resort and security was everywhere. We couldn't move. 2018 was when his royal dipshittedness closed down the government, and all the national workers were out of work. So the airports didn't have any actual American customs officials.
Oh no!
So they had stand-ins, and the lineups were a bazillion years long. It was just a freaking nightmare. But that was just the airports. Florida, awesome.
Yeah,
I love Florida. Food, great. It's the only place that I actually enjoy a Dunkin' Donuts, but Florida's something else, man. Florida is something else.
And Krista's chimed in too. So thank you for joining us as well, Krista.
Thank you, Krista.
And it's interesting. We've got a comment coming up here that I think is going to really help us segue into our next segment. So I'll give you the honors here.
Oh, here we are. In Hawaii at the hotel on Waikiki Beach, a few people assumed that I was a pool boy. Robert, I was wearing
Oh,
all
my.
white. Uh, I could just see somebody. I could just see Robert there walking along. Boy, if you could get me a drink. What? Yeah, I don't know that I would be a very good political commentator. No, I'm I'm more the late night host
Yeah.
who gets away with what he says, and then people watch just to see how much he can get away with.
There you go. And it's interesting you mentioned that, Rob, because coming up, our next video actually does have some people of color in it. And yeah, they're all wearing white coats and serving drinks. So without further ado, this next video, it really, getting to the sunshine destination, Chris, can sometimes be, in some cases, half the fun, especially back in the 1950s when airlines, interestingly enough, were a little bit more luxurious. But perhaps that's because flying to Hawaii, pretty much everybody was in first class rather than nobody being in first class. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why don't we go back in time to 1950 and go on a plane trip to Hawaii?
Let's give it a shot.
As flight time nears, the passengers gather in United's Hawaii room. There, over a cup of coffee,
I have never seen
or
so much
pineapple
gray.
juice, you exchange goodbyes.
The irony is they colorized this.
Or look
They
over a
color
cutaway
and they
model.
kept it gray.
The great
They
55
colorized it and
passenger
they
plane
kept
you'll
it gray.
soon be boarding.
Seriously.
Make
They
sure
did
the
not
lampshade is
Deck,
orange.
Mainliner's Stratocruiser.
God.
Observe its spacious luxury. The flight deck.
Spacious, it's only 3 feet long.
Forward compartment with berths for 4.
This woman. How are we ever going
Large
to fit in
dressing
that?
room, Main passenger cabin. Galley.
This is the captain talking to all the first
Spiral
class
staircase
passengers
to
who
the
could
lower
afford
deck
that special
lounge.
room. Okay, gather around. This is actually how
Rear
you get off
cabin
this
and
plane in the
private
event of an
stateroom.
emergency. You
In a
leave
few
everybody in
moments
coach
comes
behind.
the welcome announcement that the plane is ready for departure.
Not a security
Ahead are the
precaution
blue
in
waters
sight.
of the Pacific,
Nope.
whose long swells become mere ripples below as the plane reaches its cruising altitude and
Yeah,
levels off in the
In a plane that
smooth
looks like
upper air.
that, you really hope that the ocean below remains looking like
Inside
ripples.
the quiet cabin, the air is pressurized
Wow, that's
to
space.
sea-level comfort, and there's almost no feeling of motion. The stroll about spaciousness.
You know what? I've been on some pretty
Mainliner
massive
Stratocruiser
planes. You feel motion.
Yeah.
leisurely look around.
Look
Back
around.
to the
You're on a
passenger
plane. What do you mean go look around? There's no
soft
sightseeing on a
reclining
plane.
Big picture window.
Watch this girl. She moves like she's in a silent movie. It's freaky.
She looks like she got accidentally cut into this film.
You pause for a glimpse
She was a
into the
cast off from The
compact
Shining.
The Shining, exactly.
And look down the spiral
Oh,
staircase
sorry,
Why
that's the
leading
washroom.
to the lower deck lounge.
The lower deck lounge.
Yes.
Okay, what?
They must be
Not-
in Halifax.
Almost before you realize it, mealtime has arrived. On their
No, mealtime
storage
never
chest,
comes early enough on
some
flights.
filled
Ever.
salads,
Yep.
hot entrees, and frozen desserts.
Or if you're in coach, it's frozen entrees.
And warm
which are
desserts.
served by
Look
the
at that
stewardess
woman.
on
Look at the shoulder
individual
pads
tables
on her.
Set up for
She
each
wants to make
passenger.
sure that dude sitting beside her doesn't crush
Yes,
her when he
meals
falls
aboard the
asleep on
mainliner
her.
Stratocruiser are one of the real highlights.
break his
of your
chin on that
Pacific
thing.
Crossing.
Oh, it's Humphrey Bogart.
Just after
It's
the
Humphrey
rear
Bogart
cabin,
and
the
a
luxuriously
lovely,
appointed
lovely
private
young woman
stateroom,
in what looks to
decorated
be
in rose and
an
gray.
apartment, living
Here,
room
one may
on board a
enjoy
plane.
complete
Where is
privacy
this?
Throughout the journey.
This is where the Mile High
And
Club
on
started.
overnight flights, the restful comfort of
Apparently, a
two
bird ran into her
full-size
shoulder and just exploded.
Oh, it looks like a dove, a partridge. Whack!
That's what they get for opening the window when they're on a plane.
berths.
Just
The Hawaii
wham!
Lounge
These
downstairs on
rich
the lower
people, they
deck
think they can just do
is one of the
anything.
most popular spots aboard the Stratocruiser.
Looks pretty popular to me.
Here's a pleasant place to while
Yep,
away
this
brief
tiny little
travel
table,
hours,
people are crushed
joining
around
a
it.
game of cards, meeting congenial companions, or
Or
enjoying
just
a
sitting
cool
cramped
drink
staring
from
at
the
a
refreshment
blank
bar.
wall.
Hey, who do you think comes out of the bathroom next?
Hey, I like your gray suit.
Passengers
Where'd you get
enjoy
it?
a wonderfully appetizing buffet.
I got mine at the
Out of
Great
the
Suit
serving
Store. How about you? Same
Same
place.
Okay, Chris, those things in the
Old
middle
meats
are
of all
gelatin
kinds,
salads made with
delicious
mayonnaise, which makes
salads,
them white.
Ice cream and wafers
That's
prepared
mayonnaise?
by continental chefs in
Mixed
United's own
with
flight kitchen.
Gelatin?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of.
Sally, other people have to eat off that honey.
Yeah.
Sally, you've had
You know-
enough.
It's not one tray per person. It's one cookie.
Sally,
Really? Is it?
Sally.
The captain announces over the public address system that land has been sighted. And
Good
the
old generic
passengers
land.
look out eagerly for the first view
We don't
of
know
Diamond
where
Head.
we are because radar hasn't been invented yet. This is just a trial, but there is land out there. And
In the
mountains. What could go
sparkling
wrong?
Sunshine of your first Hawaiian morning, Waikiki
yeah.
Beach is just as you've always pictured it.
Colorless and
There's
washed
the
out.
Royal Hawaiian Hotel and the famous Outrigger
It
Canoe
really isn't
Club.
selling me. You're
A
right.
crew of stalwart beach boys takes us for a
Beach Boys?
sightseeing
Which
trip
one's Brian
along
Wilson?
This crescent of white sand, curved like a pleasant smile between Diamond Head and downtown Honolulu.
Have good vibrations.
Passing by the Royal Hawaiian and Halekulani hotels, we cruise along to the sound of native voices, lifted in a war chant of old Hawaii.
Sacred songs now used to entice tourists to the island.
That and Elvis Presley.
And we'll end on the sacred
Naya,
songs.
Naya, Naya, Naya. Yeah, we'll end with that.
We got some comments rolling in on Hawaii here.
I am too.
Yeah. You need that big wave at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. It starts to make. Oh, so I'm reading this to myself. I should read it to our audience. Watching this, it starts to make more sense that my father still dresses up in a suit when he flies. Yeah, does he go to hockey games like that too? Because I've seen that in black and white Maple Leaf films.
Well, the interesting thing, I was always told, like when I first started flying, to dress well because that's how you got upgraded. Although I don't think
Never happened for me,
Yeah.
and I've flown a lot.
Yeah, I think that idea of the sort of random walk down the aisle and upgrade the person who's nicest dressed just kind of doesn't work anymore.
Because they don't have room.
No.
Because they basically get passengers on with cattle prods. All right, Robert says, speaking of the lack of visible security measures on the plane, you used to be able to bring guns on planes even until the early 60s. Wow, that was only in America. Only in America.
That's true. I don't think that stuff would have been tolerated in Europe, but
I doubt that.
you never know. Have you ever gone to Hawaii, Chris?
I did, but I was very, very young. So I was 12. I was in Hawaii when I was 12. We did that, Waikiki thing and everything. We did the volcano hikes and Pearl Harbor. So I do remember because I was 12. But it was just so long ago. I really wasn't. It's not a vivid memory, but I remember the volcanoes being really cool, and I remember Pearl Harbor being very educational. How about you?
No, you know what? I've never been, and interestingly enough, the one person who's persuaded me the most to go to Hawaii was Adam West, who played Batman in the 1960s. I got to know him a little bit through a friend of mine who was a director of commercials. So we had actually, believe it or not, we had an email relationship back and forth for a while. He lived in Ketchum, Idaho, but he had Adam West had originally was an actor in Hawaii. And I remember talking to him. He said it's still what was one of his favorite places, and he absolutely loved living there. And it was really tough for him to actually come to LA because he felt he had it so good in Hawaii.
He did have it very good in Hawaii. I don't care what anybody says. If you're in Hawaii, you have it good. That's amazing. What's funny when you mention Adam West? There's a whole generation of kids that think Adam West is the guy from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts? That is nuts.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he really came back at the end of his career. There were a few different shows that had him because, much like William Shatner, although I think he's a little less prickly than William Shatner, as he got older, he got a sense of his own campness. And I know in talking to him, I mean, one of the reasons why he took Batman was he loved this idea of theater of the absurd, and he had this very sort of absurd sense of humor. So I think he really got into that with his later roles.
Whatever happened to Naked Airlines? There was a Naked Airlines at some point.
There was,
How did I
yeah.
miss
It was
that?
15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Yeah.
No
Yeah, it was
kidding.
something started obviously as a publicity stunt, but I'm not sure, Alan, what happened to that. And
I have to find out.
yeah, it's weird for a number of reasons. I don't know if
For research purposes, I
yeah,
would only want to know for research, of course.
Yeah, there's way too many jokes I can make that are just not appropriate for this broadcast.
Sure can.
How about your flight? Any interesting flight stories for you going down to sunny destinations?
The only time that I have the only flight stories that I have that are interesting are when things almost went wrong. I remember when I was younger, my dad was an engineer, so we unfortunately, for good and bad, we got moved a lot, and we were on a transatlantic flight once, and I remember it was the middle of the night. And the movie had just ended, and I was on my way to the washroom. When I came back from the washroom, the plane suddenly started losing. It was making a wild descent. Now, probably knowing what I know about aeronautics now, it was probably trying to avoid turbulence, but it dropped so fast that I went bam, and I hit the ceiling. Yeah, again, when I was like 12. So a lot happened to me back then. It was like, all right, so I'll get back to the story. Naked Airlines went under, and Chris lost a fortune. Again, not for this podcast. That's the Naked Airlines podcast. We don't want to mix the streams. So there was that. And once I was flying into Mexico City, and the turbulence was so bad flying through the mountains that I could hear the rivets on the plane sounding like they were coming loose. That's how hard and violent the shaking was. But other than that, I remember watching for the very first time in my life, watching A Christmas Story. Every year with the Christmas Story, right? So this is how long ago this was. This movie was new, so it was on an in-flight film. I remember laughing. This movie was like at 11:30 at night, and the only two idiots awake on this flight were my brother and I. We were laughing so hard that my dad reached across and banged our heads together. That was his thing. And he said, "You two shut up. You're waking everybody up."
Was your dad one of the Three Stooges?
Yeah, I think he was.
Was he Mo?
He was Mo. That was my dad's go-to to get my brother and I to settle up and fly right was to knock our heads together like a couple of coconuts.
Literally fly right.
Really fly right. Ken and Son. Speaking of sunshine destinations, I went to Florida for Disney World as a kid. Sadly, no beach time due to the long lineups for the rides. No kidding. Well, Ken and Jason, have you been to Disney recently, or have you been to Disney at all?
You know what? I've been to Orlando a number of times. I still haven't been to Disney.
A lot of these major theme parks have got these fast passes now. Have you heard of these?
No.
So it's a fast pass. So you want to talk about a class division. This is the worst. So you go to Disney, and it could be the only time that you've been able to scrape together enough money for you to take your kids to Disney. And then you get there and you line up for like we just saw from Ken, you line up for an hour and a half to get on the great ride. But now you're seeing all these kids jump the line because their parents had the scratch to pony up for what's called a fast pass, which gets them to the front of the line. And now, I don't know if they do this at Disney. They do this at Canada's Wonderland, I heard. They have the ultra fast pass that gets you in front of that line and to the front, and you're guaranteed a ride every time you jump in the line. So this class division, this socioeconomic class division is like, can you imagine that? How do you turn to your kid in line and say, sorry, we couldn't afford the fast pass, which is why we're standing in line?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I think it's terrible.
It is.
It's the worst practice I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons I never went to Disney. I don't do lines, period. Get a line.
Oh, how are you doing with the pandemic?
I get somebody else to stand in line for me.
Good for you. Ken, I love Veradero. Oh, yeah. Cuba for the beaches? Absolutely. The food in Cuba. Okay, here's another story. I heard that the food in Cuba was terrible. The beaches were awesome. So you don't go for the food, you go for the beaches, you go for the rum. Okay, that is true. But I was told that the only thing bad with the food in Cuba was that it was bland. No. The food in Cuba is awful. Like, it's
Really?
terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, you go to these resorts, and the first night, food's great, but then the next day it's the same shit, but it's less of it, and then the next day it's the same shit, but less again, and now they're filling it in full of gruel.
I was going to
And
say, do they end up feeding you gruel at the end? I was going
yeah,
to
there
be
it
my
is.
joke, but apparently
And I stole your line. I jumped all over your line. I will say this. I didn't really notice after a while how bad the food was. I just remember it being bad, and the the amount of rum that I drank. I don't remember much of anything after that. But Cuba was great for that. Cuba is also a great destination. Robert, I love this guy. Next thing you know, they're gonna have the ultra fast pass. You never leave the ride. Jesus Christ. That's a funny bit. That is a funny bit.
I love our viewers.
Alan, food is really colorful. That's the thing. It just all tastes the same. It is. You know what it was like? It was like we were eating fake food, though. It was like you'd have an apple and you'd have bacon and you'd have fish, and it all tasted like the same piece of cardboard. It's like, wait a minute here.
Oh man, yeah. That reminds me. I was on and I won't tell you the whole context to it, but I was on this Christian business cruise a couple of years ago in Florida with a business partner
Comedy
of mine.
enough.
Yes, and it was all very white people, even whiter than me, and I'm pretty white. I'm almost as white as you get, but just
Dude,
that
I'm
one
so
shade
white, I'm
whiter.
clear.
So, anyways, we go on board, and I'm asking what the food being served that night is, and they said, "Oh, jerk chicken," and I am from Toronto, where there's a lot of Jamaican, Caribbean culture here.
Yeah.
And when you get jerk chicken, it's really good chicken. It's really hot. So I'm thinking, okay, we got jerk chicken. This is going to be great. And I get it to the table and I cut into it and I eat it. And it's like, there is no spice here, like at all. Like not even salt or pepper, like nothing. Is the most bland and tasteless thing I've ever had in my life. It's just like, I cannot believe you have the audacity to call this jerk chicken.
That's white Christian food, my friend.
It is, apparently. Yeah.
Here we are. Susan said, I went to Parley Beach in New Brunswick a few times as a kid, mostly jellyfish.
I'm assuming that's not what she was eating, but
I'm going to hope that's not what she was eating. Oh, I want to go back a couple of messages ago. Ken talked about Veradero. He also talked about Wasaga Beach.
yes.
Wasaga it's a staple. It's a staple if you're in Southern Ontario. I would love to get out to a beach now you've lived, Jason, in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do the beaches in Nova Scotia?
Occasionally, they weren't very warm. Here's one of the challenges in Nova Scotia is the summers are really nice, but they're not overly hot. So I didn't go to the beaches a lot. Yeah, it's just for me, beaches. I don't know. For me, it's got to be hot to be on a beach.
Sure.
Now, the one thing Nova Scotia does have is it's got some surfing, and probably though the most popular beaches in the Maritimes are actually in New Brunswick, Parley Beach, and then there's one in PEI, and I'm spacing on the name right now. Susan will probably remember that's like hugely popular. Maybe it's Cavendish Beach, hugely popular there.
Home of the potatoes?
Well, yeah, no, it's a really nice beach. Got a couple more comments here.
Here we are. Alan, thanks for joining us, by the way. Interesting. Old Havana has buildings with cannonball holes, rubble everywhere. But the people emerge
Barney?
perfectly groomed, clean and well-dressed. Very proud people. You know what? I want this bullshit pandemic thing to end because I want to go back to Cuba because I don't want to do the resorts. I want to go to Old Havana. I have heard so many amazing things, just like what Alan just said.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pride among Native Cubans of which they all are because no one's allowed in. And Old Havana is just, I've had friends that have gone there just for the jazz, just for the club scene, and just for the apparently the food in Havana is different than the food at the resorts, because the resorts, they try to keep it very American not American. They try to keep it very Western because Americans can't go there.
Yes.
For the tourists, where if you go to Havana, you're getting, Cubano, comida de Cubano. And I'm like, I want that.
I want that.
But I got to go to Havana for that.
Yeah. And, to, again, go back a couple of comments here. I think this is in response to Rob's comment about the Ultra Fast Pass. Ken saying, virtual ride for $100. Yeah, that sounds very pandemic-y.
That does. That sounds like we could do that right here. Jason, it was called jerk chicken because you were a jerk for believing that white evangelical Christians can make a good jerk chicken and then being too chicken to send it back. Well played, Robert. Well played.
Yeah, I think we've really really taken it to a segment of the American nation. So if you have any complaints, please send them to us later. But it is what it is.
Here come the letters.
There we go. All right. So now, I'd like to do another switch video-wise, switch gears. We've already talked about, flying to your destination, but sometimes the transportation is, in a lot of ways, the destination because it sort of moves for you rather than you having to go from place to place. And that is the cruise ship. And of course, we talked about Chris working on the cruise ships. I'm sure he's going to have some great stories for us. So why don't we... But first, let's get to that video.
It's like SpongeBob.
Golden Waters.
This is way too old for SpongeBob.
At Royal Cruise Line, the sea is our love.
And the deep bass is our voice.
His voice is deeper than the ocean.
The Golden Odyssey, the Crown Odyssey, and our newly refurbished Royal Odyssey.
Lots of Odysseys. I bet it's Greek.
Fascinating ports in the world. For nearly 2 decades,
he's telling us a story.
Endeavored to bring to our passengers
I want to sail on the Medusa.
That is both uniquely satisfying.
Honey, when do we get to sail on the Medusa?
Not only in the places we visit, but in the manner and style.
Tell you, blue blazer is the height of style.
Perhaps that's why
blue blazer, white pants.
Nearly half
looks like the old uniform for Hockey Night in Canada.
That's true. This is Brian McFarlane.
But what is that Royal Cruise Line difference?
We have the King and Queen of Silesia here.
Year after year.
Did you say Silesia?
Inviting cars.
Wow.
A fine gymnasium.
I don't think that's a country anymore, though.
Sauna and massage room, as well as a professional.
It's only a state of mind. Hey, those were two people that didn't have silver hair just now.
Yes, when they had to go for the half-naked people, I think they wanted to go a little bit younger.
That was probably in their best interest.
International goods are surprisingly competitive with duty-free shops ashore. And in the evening,
that's true, actually, and the duty-free shops hate that you know that.
Live entertainment and colorful folklore.
Welcome to our country. Oh, you don't want to buy anything.
Run movies.
I want to go for the folk dancing.
And for the
I need more. I was saying just the other day, I need more folkloric dance on my vacation.
Until the early hours of the morning. During your cruise,
the same 5 people that walked in are the same 5 people that are there at the end.
Lectures and
but everybody's there for the lectures, man. Holy cow. Talk about great power.
It's like a scene out of Cocoon. What's this guy doing? Help! I'm stuck. I can't get down. The woman's like, well, just put your knees down.
Cruise Line, we have our popular host program.
What's this?
Charming gentleman partners for dining, dancing, card games.
What sort of weird seniors swinging cruise is this?
You'll find
Don't say anything else. I'm gonna have nightmares now. Shut up.
Continuous tour de force of fine foods. Prepared by
That's what you want. Instead of eating, you want to have a tour de force.
Appeal to American taste.
European chefs making food to appeal to American tastes.
A colorful
Can you imagine? You're telling somebody who studied in Austria, we would love you to come and serve for $100 hundreds of people that are only going to just put A1 sauce and ketchup on their stuff.
Greek staff and crew.
Where are the Frankfurters?
A new dimension.
I
I
understand the snails. Snails make me queasy. Where are the Frankfurters?
Low-fat, low-cholesterol.
I want more of that gelatin
In
salad
accordance with the dietary
that we had on the
guidelines of
flight.
the American Heart
That's the thing. You get hooked on the
So you
gelatin
can
salad on the
enjoy
flight, and then the cruise food just won't do it for you.
Dining
Spam. I need more spam.
For almost 2 decades, Royal
I've
Cruise
been
Line
sleeping through this
offered its
voiceover.
passengers
For
a
almost
selection
2
of activities
decades, I have been sleeping.
very
I woke up only
new
today.
to evoke
That's
the
at
magic of the
1992.
sky.
That's
And with the
true.
inauguration
This was actually
of our new
the start
Royal
of
Lines,
the golden era of
created
cruising.
several
Was the
additional
late
activities
80s.
that are
1992 was
true to
bam when everything started to just go
special
meteoric.
That was after the Love Boat.
For those
Oh yeah, the Love Boat was over by that point. Love Boat was actually true story. The Love Boat is what launched the entire commercialization of mainstream cruise industry.
That I certainly believe it was really popular. They made cruising seem fun.
India,
Yeah.
coastal Africa. Here you'll have an opportunity to visit the storied
That
ports
statue's leaking.
and newest cities.
Somebody call the super. We got a leaky statue again.
Discover many of the compelling wonders that have lured the
You know it's
traveler
Asia when they're
throughout
using
history.
gongs in the background.
Yeah, nothing too
And as you
stereotypical
travel the
there in the
world
musical
in
choice.
elegance,
I'm surprised they didn't play the song Hong Kong Phooey.
You'll enjoy the very best in cruising as we treat you to the warm, inviting
More
ambience
food.
and fine personal
Oh, look at these
service
youngsters.
that all
these poppy 50-year-olds.
to join us on one of our many voyages and look forward to sharing with you.
I'm sure they used this shot to make the
Experience of a
boats seem
lifetime.
really huge, but
As we
man, probably
sail
considering
to
the
the
boats out there
many
today or the ships out there today,
fascinating
this must be
that
small.
are the world.
This is what you would call a boat, and these the ships this side hang off this size hang off the side of modern day ships.
Yes, I'm sure cruising certainly has changed a lot, Chris. And I got to ask you, actually before I get to the questions,
Okay.
there's a couple comments that we still have to
Let's
get
do
to,
it.
so let's do that.
Let's get to them. Susan, the other big beach in New Brunswick is the Rocks. That doesn't sound comfortable at all. Let's go to the beach. Which one? The Rocks. Oh, that sounds like beach blanket material. We used to go climbing around the caves. Now that's cool. Although you had to make sure to get out before the tide came in.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what happens when people don't read the brochure.
No, Rob, I don't think Hong Kong Phooey is the anthem for Hong Kong, but
It isn't?
no,
I thought it
unfortunately
was.
not.
That's
And
why I
and,
said
and, and
it.
Scatman Carruthers is not the president either.
Hotel Nacional has 50s style phones and pictures of Che Guevara on the walls. Nothing's changed.
Cool.
That's when the expatriates go home one day and go, "Wow, seriously, nothing's changed." Wow.
Exactly. So, obviously, Chris, you had a relatively long relationships with the cruise line. So, why don't you tell us about your most interesting story or stories? And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put you full frame because I want to do something
All
in the
right.
background here while you're talking.
Sure, okay. Yeah, go to the washroom. No, I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. So, Royal Cruise Lines. I always wondered if that was Royal Caribbean. I did have some time with Royal Caribbean a long time ago in the 90s. That was something else. That was something else. Interesting stories. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of drinking, that's for sure. The one thing that guests don't understand, I don't know that cruise lines want the guests to know this, but you know, there's two prices. There's the guest price, and then there's the crew price for things. those $9 pints are like $1.50 for crew. So that. But the other thing that people I don't think understand is that most crew are working first of all crew are working 7 days a week. Bottom line, 7 days a week. And that's it. And you don't get a break until your shore leave comes up. So, and by that point, you're begging to get off. There's no doubt about that. And most of the days are anywhere from 8 to sometimes 14, 15-hour days. They're long, long days. Spare time is if you have time in port, you enjoy port, you get away from the guests because you're going to get enough of them when you get back on. But it's that's pretty unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable. There's so many stories I could get into, but again, none of them fit for prime time. But hey, I cut my teeth as a master of ceremonies out at sea. So what else was I supposed to do? 4 years with a microphone in my hand. The only thing I could do was get better at it. Krista Rowan says, I watched the surf championships live in Hawaii. It was insane. Yeah, it is insane. I wish I knew how to surf. It looks like so much fun. However, when I see what happens to some of these characters when they crash, I understand why it's probably good that I don't know how to surf, because a lot of those really... Were you a cabin mate? No. You gutter mind? No, I was not.
Tell us a little bit about what you did do.
Oh yeah, I was when you go. I mean, every cruise ship has a cruise director, and that's normally the guy, the man or woman who is in charge of making sure that guests know where all the entertainment is, what time it starts, and where they can spend their money. Always constantly reminding people where they can spend their money. And I worked for the cruise director crew. And so anything that took any and all entertainment that took place off the main stages, that was what I did with a crew of many. So cool. It was for the most part, it was really competitive. I had a great time because I had people that I worked with who desperately wanted to be better than everybody else. So it was amazing. It was amazing.
So it wasn't like Julie on the Love Boat where you walked around with a clipboard all day.
No. And there was more than one. That was the thing. Love Boat. I remember there was a cruise director that I worked for, and in his opening remarks, because he'd been doing it a long time, he used the same lines every week, and he would always say the thing about, if you watch the Love Boat, who watched the Love Boat, everybody puts their hands up, and he said, we're a lot like that, except that we have more than one bartender, thank God, because you got 1,500 guests, you're going to need more than one bartender. We have more than one doctor, the captain you rarely ever see. And he said, I may be the cruise director, but I have a staff of many that do everything else with me and at times for me. So yeah, but the Love Boat, it took what they said. Oh, you work for Eastern Steamship. Very good, Alan. Excellent. Any experience out at sea is amazing experience. What the Love Boat did was it took the bugaboo about it being, just an upper crust sort of, because prior to the Love Boat, the only thing people knew about cruising was the Titanic. Yeah. And that was
that actually didn't go all that well.
Huge difference. No, yeah. It didn't end well. Started off great, didn't end well. But a lot of people thought that it was all white glove and wealthy people, and if you didn't have money, then you either couldn't cruise or you were in lower steerage. Well, that just doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And the Love Boat really opened people's eyes as to just how mainstream it is.
Once you see Tom Bosley as a passenger, you know that it's for everybody.
Anybody can get on. As soon as you see that Charo is your entertainment on a regular basis, anybody can go on board. So so thank goodness for the Love Boat. And the movie didn't help anything.
Probably not. So no. I ended up switching to my cravat.
You did, I noticed.
For a reason.
The last you didn't pay a bill.
No. The last time I was on a cruise, which was actually the first time I was on a cruise, about 5 years ago, was on a Christmas cruise, just basically around Florida and Mexico. And it's interesting because I went to university partly in England, University of Cambridge, and I got to learn the sense of formal dress for different types of dinners and stuff like that, which is very different from what a lot of people these days think of as formal. I know some days now when I go, I just wear a collared shirt like this, and people are like, "Oh, you're so formal." It's just like, it's not formal. So, again, somebody say in the English upper classes, for the sea, this would be how you would dress casually. You'd have a cravat instead of a tie, and it's not overly formal. It's actually kind of informal, but from a certain strata. Anyways, on for a lot of cruises, they have nights where you're supposed to dress up. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because they don't really enforce the dressing up all that much. And there's a lot of people who just don't, period. I think that's kind of being phased out. Anyways, I remember going to dinner one night. I don't even think it was a dress up night. But it might have been. We were like 1 or 2 nights in, and I came out of my cabin and I was dressed like this, which to me, it's just, kind of cool and casual, cravat and shirt. And this woman is coming down the stairs with her husband. And she looks at me and she turns to her husband. She goes, "Go back upstairs and change. Go back upstairs and change. I told you this is formal. I told you this is formal." I'm looking at the guy. I mean, he seems to be dressed fine, but his
Jason.
his wife was on him. And as soon as she sees me in the cravat, she's like, "This is not acceptable. You got to go back."
That is awesome, man. There were formal nights where there were like trailer park trash that were wandering around in sandals, shorts, and a t-shirt that was printed to look like a tuxedo.
Oh,
Yeah.
those ones. Oh my goodness.
It
yes.
was like, seriously, yeah, you don't, that's just off. The rest of us are sweating, our faces off in actual tuxedos.
Yeah.
And these jokers. But last I remember, and it was a long time ago, they didn't enforce it, but they also didn't let people who were dressed that informally attend the formal events. So if it was a formal event, then they were made to go back to their cabins and change, or you're not allowed in.
Well, it's good to know there's some standards left.
Yeah, last I remember, there were standards left. I don't know. I don't think it's the same line to line. I'm sure that there's a huge difference between, I don't know, celebrity and carnival. I mean, carnival, it's right in the name, carnival. If you go on board and are surprised by the hedonism, then you didn't read the brochure. It's called carnival for a reason.
Yes. So,
And no, I did not work for carnival. So
I was going to ask. Anyways, Al, who mentioned he was working for Eastern Steamship Lines, has an addendum to his comment here.
20 times per week. Will the Canadian band please report to the Star Lounge for a meeting with the 20 times a week. Will the Canadian band... Sounds like you guys were drunk a lot. Canadians. The one thing that I also used to love was the Canadians were everybody's best friends. This is not a chest thumping Canadians are the best moment, by the way. Not at all. We were able to laugh at ourselves. We had a really good time. We were up for any party, no matter how out of control it would get. And normally it would be the Canadians that would take it to the next level, but we wouldn't get belligerently out of hand. We would just be having a great time. So we were invited to all, like, basically every single party. Let's just put it that way.
Always a good position to be in.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody wanted to be at the Canada Day party.
Everyone wants a piece of Canada.
Oh yeah.
There we are. So, we've talked a lot about the water, talked about Florida, flying to Hawaii, the cruises, but, there's other sunshine destinations that are available in a place where there's no water at all, which is the desert. Well, no natural water, but most of the resorts in the desert seem to have a lot of swimming pools, don't they?
Well, they need them. Yeah. And here's a really good example of that right now.
That's right.
A dry, sun-baked plain.
I love driving through the desert.
I can hardly wait till my next desert trip.
Millions of years ago, it was the bottom of an ancient sea. Yet today, it's a waterless
That's a pretty sweet-looking vehicle.
Across which a
That was
highway threads its way
the guy just, did you hear that little bit of history he just dropped? This used to be the bottom of a vast sea. Thanks for going back 450,000 years.
I came here for the sea. Where's the sea?
A modern little winter resort city that came to be known as the playground of the stars.
It's all done up for Christmas.
Exactly. Let's just imagine that it's winter.
More than 30 years ago, this tiny village had few
I like the cartoon music.
Today,
Yeah.
there are more than 300 hotels, ranging to modest,
From dingy to dirty.
250,000 winter sun worshippers who visit
And you're
Palm
completely
Springs
surrounded by mountains, meaning that you're in a valley, meaning you're probably getting no precip whatsoever.
And you would know.
I don't use that track.
Blessing made friends
Blessing?
with Gino,
His wife's
who
name
lived
is
in Palm
Blessing?
Springs, and she showed us where to drive to
That's
see most of the town.
She should change that.
Yeah. Looks like Leave It to Beaver's dad, only thinner.
It does.
Maybe he
does.
was in a
It's
POW camp in Korea or
Ward
something.
Cleaver. Yeah, he came out starved. This here looks like a POW camp.
It's
Then as
downtown.
we passed one home, we spotted a familiar face. Hoagie Carmichael, off to the golf course with
In
his
some
son
sort of alien
and
contraption.
another lad.
It's pretty
Guy counts, so we
self-satisfied.
He's like, I got my boys. Take us to your leader.
Every denomination and faith has its church, although the permanent population of Palm Springs is only about 10,000. And a
Yeah.
modern school
Whoa, look at that. That's like some sort of
2,500
massive
children
Greek temple.
From kindergarten through high school.
They said the population is 10,000, but the school holds 2,500. So a quarter of the population is in high school.
Yeah, it was the start of the baby boom.
And horses. There's something about bacon and eggs cooked out of doors that tastes different.
Especially when you're
Clean
eating them
air
next
gives
to the
you a
horses.
cowhand's
I
appetite.
was gonna say,
Then,
it
after
tastes
the
different
food,
because the
the
whole
guitars
area
come out.
smells
And
different.
the old ballads from the ranges tell the story in
Smile is
song
just stuck on her
of the
face.
exploits of early pioneers.
Yeah, it does. It looks like
who
she's
fought
not
the
smiling, but
hills
somebody
straight
went and
west.
put a piece of duct tape with a smile on it.
When does it end? When does it end? When can I stop?
He's standing way too close to me with his guitar. I really just want to eat my eggs and smell the horse manure.
The dog just fed up with it all.
The dog's like, you know what? I want out. I want out. Why? This is ridiculous. Look at the way these people dress.
And the ride down the canyon trail to town. Water in irrigation ditches made an oasis of Palm Springs. And today, water
And
also
drained all the natural feeds of water, which is why California's in trouble today.
probably 1 out of every 3 homes has its own private pool. And the tiled patio beside the
The
pool
tiled
becomes the family
patio?
living room.
Is that supposed to be
When
like
you look down on
patio,
the
only
village
there's a
from the
washroom
air,
nearby or
patio?
something?
pools seem
The
to be
patio?
everywhere. And well, they should. There are almost 1,000 of them here, both private
Ah,
and public.
well, that doesn't
More
seem
pools
too
for the
gratuitous,
number
does
of
it?
residents
No.
than anywhere else in the world.
Everybody has
All
a
of the
pool.
scenery
What else are we
of
going to do with
Palm
fresh water? It's
is not in
endless.
the mountains.
I like the ladies in wool sweaters by the pool.
We had gone to the famous
that beach
Palm
ball
Springs
again.
Tennis Club for a
that
swim
damn
in
beach
what is
ball, it's
often
back.
called the most photographed swimming pool
It's like the
in
man from
world.
Uncle. What is she looking at? Oh my.
Don't know.
Uh-oh.
Probably that cabana outfit. It'll show some pretty girls. There's my dad. So my dad would wear that at the pool.
Jeez,
There are 4 beautiful golf courses in the Palm Springs area.
that's amazing. See, that's my dad.
The winter golf capital of America.
That
Probably one reason
that
the
is so
president
typical
visited
of
Palm Springs
Canadian
for
dads
his winter vacation.
from that era, not
Yeah.
today. That's not us. That's them.
And on the links, as everywhere else, you frequently run into well-known faces.
Ooh, like who?
Like Gummo, one of the famous 4 Marx brothers.
Okay, Gummo was neither famous nor was he one of the 4 Marx brothers. He was the 5th Marx brother and was never in any of the movies.
Well, there's a tidbit of information.
You've been told by the Marx Brothers
Before
expert.
Judge McCallum
Yeah,
built his
a
19
sensitive
mile
Marx
ditch across
Brothers
the desert
expert.
to bring water to his groves in Palm Valley.
Bring water to his groves in Palm Valley, and what happens? Lots of pools. Lots of pools. More than 1,000 of them back then. I'm sure there's even more now.
But you know, that state desperately needs water to put out fires. Apparently, the 1,000 pools that started in the 1950s has probably ballooned to 10,000 pools. And they wonder, hey, why is it so dry here?
I blame Gummo Marx. As soon as Gummo moved to
do.
Palm Springs, everybody did.
What a fraud. Robert says, I think that cowboy was a bit confused for a second. I think he thought he was milking the horse.
Yeah, when he picked up that stirrup, it sort of looked like he was ready to get to work there. That was very strange.
Yeah, he did. He did. Get to work. Is that what they call it now? Okay.
Yes.
That's the terminology the kids are using.
All the kids are, I'm so down with today's generation, Chris.
You're hip.
Down
Hip
or up? I'm
replacement,
not sure what the
but-
kids say. So, are you a desert fan? Do you like the desert?
I do. I know. I made a joke in there about, I can't wait to get to the desert. But I do. I've always had an affinity to the desert. I mentioned my dad moved us around a lot because he was, an engineer and stuff. So we lived for a few years in a desert. And I remember I did a drive through I did a drive through Death Valley once, just again for kicks.
One of my favorite. I love Death
Isn't
Valley.
it awesome?
Yeah.
Isn't it awesome?
It's like
Especially when you get to the
it's
Valley
like
of
being
Fire.
in a car commercial, right?
It is.
You know.
It is. Like, there's not a lot of people there,
Nope.
and you're driving, and there's dust coming off the sides. The Valley of Fire is in
Nevada,
in
near Las
Nevada,
Vegas. Yeah.
which is awesome because now you've got all of a sudden out of nowhere it's stark red. It's like ochre. It's like blood red rocks, which is just awesome. Because I love dry heat. I like humidity, but I like Caribbean humidity. I don't like Metro Toronto humidity. Because let's be honest, Caribbean humidity smells like guava and and passion fruit and fish, and here it smells like exhaust, construction and sewage. Yeah. Exactly. So it's different. And the dry heat of the desert, I like. I love Nevada, and I love and I'm going to be sensitive here. I love the interior of British Columbia. However, what's happened recently in the news has been absolutely heartbreaking because it's a desert, because it's hot and it's dry. And that got wildly out of control last week. And desert towns like Lytton have really taken it on the chin with temperatures that reached 50 degrees Celsius. 40. Okay, just full disclosure, my dad had us living for 3 years in Saudi Arabia. Okay. It never got as hot in Saudi Arabia that I ever experienced as it did in the interior of British Columbia. I personally never experienced a 50-degree day in the deserts of Saudi freaking Arabia, yet they had 49.7 in Lytton. That was insanity.
Yeah, our hearts definitely go out to everybody who was impacted by that because it was just so incredibly dramatic. But getting back to the U.S. Southwest, one of the interesting things about the desert is there's a lot of crazy people who've gone to the desert and sort of set up their own communities. There's communities
and
for
gotten
sale.
Crazier.
There's ghost towns. There's resorts that were started as these weird sort of religious organizations where they were trying to avoid taxes. There's the Alien Beef Jerky place, which is one of my favorites.
Say what now?
Alien Beef Jerky. It's in Nevada outside of Las Vegas. There's actually a lot of really great beef jerky places in Nevada, but Alien Beef Jerky, it has a big flying saucer out front and a really tall alien, and there's like 50 different varieties. Oh yeah, just beef jerky. There's like 50 different varieties of beef jerky. But
Can we go there? Could we do a show on location from there?
I would love to, because you know what? The beef jerky in Nevada is different from any of the stuff you get here in the north.
Why?
It's really good. It's prepared a little bit differently. It's thinner. It practically melts in your mouth as opposed to, you get Jack Link's or something like that, which isn't bad. It's probably the best beef jerky you can get in Canada, but it's like chewing on a piece of gum. Where there, it comes in these really thin sheets and you can just tear off a piece, put it in your mouth, and it practically just melts. It's great.
As God is my witness, I never knew Nevada was known for its beef jerky. I thought it's known for so many things.
Yeah,
beef jerky. I've never. Why has there not been a movie featuring beef jerky in Vegas?
Well, I think I'm not sure.
Or in Nevada.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the Alien. I think the Alien Beef Jerky place is right across from the Alien Brothel. There actually is an Alien Brothel, which is another thing you find in the in the desert. Like I said, there's a lot of weird things there.
Wow.
The California desert is great too. One of my favorite ghost towns is a place called Amboy, which is famous for Roy's gas station, which I think was in the movie Cars. So there's this gas station with this really big neon sign. And then there's a hotel and a school, both of which have been closed down for I don't know how long. It's hard to tell. All the windows are broken, but people still live there. It's basically all squatters. It's kind of scary if you're if you're out roaming around. It's like, oh my God, people live in those buildings. And then across the street, the only other building, immaculate little post office. Everything perfect, swept. It's just like this beacon in the middle of the desert, this little post office. And there's so much nothing around it. Now, one of the big things to do, if you're in California, if you're in like LA or whatever, is actually take your plane and fly in, just land wherever, because there's whole bunch of spot to land.
Lots of space.
Go into Roy's gas bar, get yourself something to eat, and then fly back. So if you have Instagram,
Wow.
check out Roy's Gas Bar in Amboy, because you will be amazed at how many pictures you can have of the same, well, basically the same building. Occasionally it shows you maybe one or two other buildings, but it's pretty
I have
much
to
the
check
same.
this out.
The same thing.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, lots of weird stuff in the desert. I think we got another comment coming in from Susan, who, okay, she's got. Here we go, Chris.
And the alien brothel is just south of the ghost town with the large modern art installations. This sounds like just a potpourri of craziness.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the place she's thinking of, I think it's Rhyolite. There are a whole bunch of weird art installations out in the desert, from buried cars to tall rocks with painted stuff on it. But Rhyolite's really weird. Somebody found it on Google Maps and really freaked them out, because there's these statues of ghosts and stuff in the desert with bicycles, and it's all kind of crazy postmodern stuff. But it's really freaky. If you don't expect it to be there and don't realize that it's art, you're like driving around and suddenly seeing these weird ghosts out in the middle of the desert.
Well, you know what it is? It's because it's so freaking hot out, and you've got to go miles before you get the next bottle of water. These people were probably driven insane by the heat and set up a beef jerky joint or a brothel or art installations, and they didn't know what they were even up to. You're right, though. You see a lot of these sci-fi movies, and it's always the crazy person with the ham radio in the desert.
Yep.
That's right, Alan.
Alien brothel.
You heard it.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
I mean, I don't think the women are aliens. I think they just call it that. But although, who knows? Maybe they all come from over the border.
They say they're. Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're
Using
saying.
the other term for alien.
Right. I thought you were talking. They live among us.
They very well do. And half of them are probably watching right now.
Likely they are going, wait a minute, the jig is up.
So that has been our trip to Sunshine Destinations, our 4 short films for you. If you have any more quick comments you want to make, please do so now. Chris, you know what? Before we get to the end here, something I forgot to mention. So if you recall, when we did the Royal Cruise Lines thing, they talked about this host program where they matched up a single guy with the women. That actually made me curious. So I went online, I found a little bit about that program. And yes, they got all of these guys who were over 65 and let them on the ship free. And their job would be to dance with the ladies, play cards with them, converse with them. They had to be vetted. They had to know how to dance properly. They had to know how to play bridge. But these guys would just, some of them were just, literally from one cruise to the next, because they were retired. And apparently the other rules were they had to circulate. And if a lady got a little too possessive, they would basically have to say, no, I have to, dance with other women. And if you're interested, we can, maybe talk later, I guess.
I've heard about I've heard about that program. It's I did not know that it still existed. I mean, obviously that film was very, very old, but I didn't know that. I thought that they were all hired. I never thought that they were just guests that were on board for free. That sounds a bit dangerous to me, but.
Yeah. I think that's how they paid them. I think technically they were employees, but I don't think they made a lot of money from it. Their gig was that they got to basically cruise for free.
Yeah.
But again, they had to follow the rules, and they were probably given the same type of rooms and rules and everything else as anybody else who was on board as an employee, I would think.
I had heard of it, but it was really funny to see it in that video playing out in black and white or almost color at that time. That was kind of fun. And your comment was swinging single seniors is like, I still can't get that out of my head. I'm gonna have to drink heavily to try and forget that you said that.
Well, it was just so weird. You're watching this like, for our female passengers traveling alone. But
I know, and the voiceover guys for almost all the videos all sounded like they were pastors at a wake, like over at a funeral. They didn't sound excited at all.
Yeah, well, maybe because they worried if they sounded too excited, it would give a whole new meaning to some of the stuff they were talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want everybody to think there's a happy ending to the video.
So, final comments here. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thanks, Robert. As always, thanks for your input as well. Thanks for being Robert. For those of you, thanks and good night.
Everyone's
Rob.
going to say good night, Rob. And he's sort of like
See you, Rob.
Norm.
Okay, well, it's like Norm.
Norm.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for tuning in and being a part of the program here tonight. That was one of the most spirited collections of discussions we've had since we started doing these live casts. So Jason, thank you for making this possible. And this was a ton of fun. The Sunshine Destinations was definitely a highlight. I hope everybody else got as much out of it as we did.
Yeah, and it's sometimes tricky to find a topic where we can find the right film and also really get that interaction. That's a big thing for me when we're trying to figure out what topics to put together here. So if you have any ideas and any topics you want to see us to cover for further Cheezy Sales Cinema Lives, let us know, because some of the best ones we've done have been suggestions from people like you.
That's right. People watching going, ooh, I would love to get into a spirited discussion about, and that could be the next one. Let us know.
Yes, let us know. So on behalf of Chris Mei, I'm Jason Reid. Thank you for joining us and have a great night.
Take care, y'all.